My life doesn't gravitate towards being edgy, sexy, or cool. I just naturally am not any of those things.
Taylor Swift, the girl who turned her wounds into weapons and her heartbreaks into global hits. But what hides behind the glitter of her tours, the scandalous love stories, and the war over her own songs? This is the story of a woman the world loves and hates at the same time. From her forbidden romance with Harry Styles to her battle with billionaires for her own name today, we uncover what has remained in the shadows. This isn't just the story of a pop star. This is the revelation of the true cost of fame. The whole world was used to seeing Taylor Swift shining on stage in glittering costumes under the thunder of applause from tens of thousands of fans. She smiled, she danced, she accepted awards. To many, it seemed like her life was an endless celebration. But behind that dazzling facade lay a story that glossy magazines never dared to print. A story of betrayal, money, and a ruthless system that had enslaved artists for decades. From the very beginning of her career, Taylor was branded the girl with the guitar. She was just 15 when she signed her first contract, a deal no one suspected would become her chains. That document wasn't about dreams or stardom. It was about clauses written in cold legal ink, clauses that stripped her of ownership over her own songs. She poured her heart into writing hits. Her music conquered the charts, but everything she created belonged not to her, but to others hiding in the shadows. The public cheered, "Taylor's #1 again. Taylor's breaking the charts." Yet few knew that every triumph she celebrated made millions, not for her, but for the people pulling strings behind the curtain. It was an empire built on stolen talent, with Taylor reduced to nothing more than the face of a brand. Then came the day when everything unraveled, 2019. The music industry exploded with the news. Big Machine had sold Taylor Swift's master recordings to a man the world would soon know, Scooter Braun. To some, it was just another business deal. To Taylor, it was a knife in the back. Her voice, her art, her memories, all of it was suddenly owned by someone she had openly called her enemy. "They took away my past," she confessed. And for the first time, millions of fans saw not the smiling superstar, but a woman in tears. But Taylor wasn't going to surrender. That moment ignited a war not for money, but for freedom. She made a decision no one expected, to re-record her entire catalog. What seemed like madness became a revolution. With every new Taylor's version release, she shattered records and dismantled the plans of those who tried to profit off her name. The industry was stunned. The girl with the guitar had become a warrior, taking on the system from within. Her fight became a symbol for an entire generation of artists. She proved that in a world ruled by billions, a single voice could still shake the ground. But Taylor's story wasn't just about contracts and corporations. It was also about love, messy, public, and sometimes devastating. December 2012, the world gasped when Taylor Swift and Harry Styles were first spotted together. She was America's sweetheart, already becoming an icon of a new pop era. He was the heartthrob of One Direction, adored by millions of teenage fans. Their romance looked like a fairy tale, but it was, in reality, a storm. Fans went wild. Taylor trended worldwide. Harry's fans bombarded Taylor with threats, while her own begged her to stay away from him. The internet split into factions, and the couple found themselves living inside a hurricane of obsession and hate. Even their casual stroll through Central Park became a global spectacle, surrounded by cameras and fans who gave them no escape. On the surface, it was yachts, paparazzi kisses, and glamorous snapshots. Behind closed doors, it was chaos, jealousy, fame, managers constantly interfering, and a pressure no young couple could survive. Rumors spread that Harry felt trapped, too young to handle the suffocating spotlight, while Taylor, already known for turning heartbreak into music, seemed to understand their love was doomed before it even began. Their breakup was as loud as their romance. The infamous fight in the Caribbean left Taylor alone, sitting on a boat with cameras capturing every tear, an image that became the symbol of their story. She channeled the pain into songs like Style and Out of the Woods, which weren't just hits, but raw diary entries of heartbreak, fear, and the crushing weight of fame. For Harry, the relationship was a brutal lesson in survival under the spotlight. Years later, he admitted it taught him not to trust the public eye, not to confuse real love with a performance for millions. Their story became legend, a love that burned bright but collapsed under the weight of its own fame. A short romance that left a decade-long shadow. And perhaps it was then that Taylor truly realized her private life would never again belong solely to her. But the storms didn't stop. 2019 brought her greatest betrayal, the sale of her masters to Scooter Braun. To Taylor, it wasn't business, it was war. She swore to reclaim her legacy, and she did. Album by album, Taylor's versions rewrote history. She turned what was meant to break her into the ultimate act of revenge. And just as she conquered one battlefield, another war began, one that would shake all of pop culture. Her feud with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian was not just about music. It was about power, reputation, and survival in an industry that thrived on tearing women apart. It was the moment Taylor Swift shed the last image of a country princess and became something else entirely. A symbol of resilience, of defiance, of a woman unafraid to challenge the most powerful forces in entertainment. And the world of show business has never been the same since. The Kardashian family had always thrived on scandal, but their feud with Taylor turned into an all-out war between two empires. When Kim released those infamous recordings of a phone call, she knew it would be a low blow. The internet erupted. Millions across the globe believed Taylor had lied. Memes, mockery, headlines. Her name was everywhere, but always followed by one word: fake. For Taylor, it was a fall as brutal as a public execution. Overnight, she went from queen of the industry to its outcast. The Kardashians and Kanye celebrated their victory, their show pulling record ratings, while every move Taylor made was dissected with ridicule. But this was where her transformation began. In silence and in the dark, far from the cameras, she wrote, "These were no longer songs of a girl in sparkly dresses. They were the words of a woman who had endured humiliation and betrayal. When Reputation dropped in 2017, the world saw a new Taylor, vengeful, fierce, unapologetic. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She stood before the world and declared, 'You wanted to kill my reputation? Congratulations. But now, I'm building a new one.' And in that moment, the Kardashians realized their plan had backfired. Instead of being destroyed, Taylor turned the smear campaign into her rebirth. The scandal that was meant to bury her career became the foundation of her greatest triumph. After the whirlwind romances, the headline scandals, and the heartbreaks splashed across tabloids, it seemed Taylor had finally found her refuge. In 2016, her heart was captured by British actor Joe Alwyn. Their love story was the opposite of everything that came before. No red carpet spectacles, no sensational interviews, just silence. For 6 years, Taylor and Joe lived as if hidden away from the world. She called him her home, and fans believed this was the love that would finally give her simple human happiness. Her songs of that era were filled with whispers of secret London meetings, quiet nights together, a sense of safety and trust. For Taylor, it was more than romance, it was an island of peace in an ocean of chaos. Fans dreamed of a wedding. Rumors spread of secret engagements, of a ring she supposedly wore in private, of ceremonies planned far from flashing cameras. Everything pointed to this love being the most enduring of her life. And then April 2023 came crashing down. Headlines exploded. Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn had split. 6 years of silence, trust, and what seemed to be a sanctuary ended with a bang. For fans, it was not just shocking, it was heartbreaking. Those who believed Joe was her forever felt betrayed in their hopes. The reasons remain a mystery. Some claimed Joe grew weary of the scale of her fame, of a life lived under constant scrutiny. Others suggested Taylor was chasing new horizons, their paths no longer aligned. The truth remains locked behind closed doors. What the breakup revealed was this: even for a global icon, love is fragile. Millions mourned with her, but true to form, Taylor turned pain into art, and perhaps her new songs will be her most honest confessions yet. And then came the chapter that would cement her place not just in music, but in history. The birth of the Eras Tour. A story so colossal it belongs not only in music textbooks, but in sociology, economics, even psychology. When Taylor announced in 2022 her grandest tour yet, a journey through all her eras, from the tender country ballads of a Pennsylvania girl to the global pop anthems of Midnights, no one imagined the world would lose its mind. It began with the ticket sales. Ticketmaster promised a flawless fan experience. Instead, disaster struck. Servers crashed under the weight of millions, fans were stuck in endless queues, prices soared into the stratosphere, the internet rioted. Hashtags like Ticketmaster fail and Taylor Swift Eras Tour disaster trended worldwide. Even the US Congress launched an investigation. The scandal reached the White House. And how did Taylor respond? By turning chaos into her weapon. She stood by her fans, furious, but protective. It's excruciating for me to watch mistakes like this happen. And the world believed her. In this story, Taylor wasn't the villain. She was the victim of a corporate giant. When the tour finally began, it was clear. This wasn't just a concert. It was a 3-hour epic that spanned her entire career. A living museum of music. Each song was a chapter of her life. Each costume changed a leap into a new era. Fans sobbed through All Too Well 10-minute version, screamed every word to shake it off, lit arenas during Enchanted. The shows became temples, uniting millions in collective ecstasy. The Eras Tour became a cultural phenomenon. Economists reported that cities hosting concerts saw billions in revenue. Hotels, restaurants, airlines, merchandise all surged. In America, it was called the Taylor Swift effect. In Latin America and Asia, her arrival was compared to a head of states. Critics called it the Beatles of the 21st century. But Taylor had something even they did in social media. Every show spread instantly across TikTok and Twitter. Fans theorized about secret songs, analyzed every gesture, every look. She kept even those outside the arenas hooked, breathless. And most of all, the Eras Tour proved one thing. Taylor was no longer just a singer. She had become a symbol of an era, a unifying force for millions, from teenagers to their parents. To call her the queen of pop culture was no longer exaggeration. This was how legends are born. A tour that began in chaos became the most profitable in music history and a cultural event that reshaped the industry itself. The Eras Tour wasn't just concerts. It was proof that Taylor Swift had turned her songs into a religion and herself into an icon beyond time. The story of Taylor Swift is not just the story of a singer. It is the chronicle of how a small-town girl from Pennsylvania became a woman who dictates the rules of an entire industry. She started with the guitar and songs about first love. Today, her words can crash corporate stocks, move millions into the streets, and force politicians to speak. Taylor is more than a musician. Her life has been a battle for love, for her songs, for freedom, for her fans. And in that battle, she has turned wounds into anthems. Every album, every lyric, every tear became a weapon and a gift to her generation. The world of show business has always been cruel to women, especially those who dared to speak too loudly. But Taylor did not just endure. She made the world bow. She proved that vulnerability can be strength, that honesty can generate billions, and that one woman's story can become cultural heritage. Today, she is called the most powerful woman in music. But perhaps her influence reaches far beyond the stage. She changed the rules, showed fans they were the true force, and taught artists that you can go against the system and win. Her journey is filled with drama, scandal, heartbreak, and betrayal. And yet, all of it only strengthened the legend. Taylor Swift is the woman who turned the chaos of her life into a symphony sung by the entire world. And maybe this is her greatest secret. Taylor Swift is not just a pop star. She is an era. In the world of show business, there's always been one golden rule. The real money doesn't come from music. Records, streaming, concerts, all of that brings only a fraction of true wealth. Millionaires and billionaires in the entertainment world were born through business ventures. Rihanna built a cosmetics empire with Fenty. Kim Kardashian turned scandals and reality television into a clothing brand. Jay-Z made his fortune on champagne and investments, Kanye West on sneakers. And for decades, it was believed that music alone could never make anyone a billionaire. And then came Taylor Swift, a girl from Pennsylvania who began with country songs about first love, managed to shatter this myth. She proved that being honest with your fans and turning your personal life into art is enough to build an empire worth $1 billion. Her story became a sensation not just in music magazines, but in the global economy itself. The path to this started with her loudest scandal, the sale of her master recordings. At first, it looked like a disaster. After all, Taylor had her past taken away from her. But this was where she did what no artist before her had dared to do. She re-recorded everything from scratch. Taylor's version was not just a musical project, it was a full-scale strategy of resistance. Each release was more than just an album. It was an act of revenge. Fans saw buying those records as a personal contribution to Taylor's war for freedom. This model flipped the market upside down. For the first time ever, an artist was able to compete with her own past catalog and win. Every new version soared to the top of the charts, surpassing the originals, while the corporations who had invested millions into her old catalog lost money. Experts wrote, "Taylor has achieved the impossible. She made music work for her, not for the industry." But the real explosion came in 2023 with the launch of the Eras Tour. Originally conceived as a concert journey through all of her eras, a kind of living museum of her artistry, it grew into a planetary scale event. For 3 hours on stage, Taylor lived out her entire career, from a young country girl to a symbol of global pop culture. People flew across oceans to see the show. Hotels were overflowing, tickets sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and fans spent everything on merch. That was when economists first spoke of the phenomenon known as the Swift economy. Just imagine, a single Taylor Swift concert generated tens of millions of dollars for the city it was held in. Restaurants, hotels, transportation, souvenir shops, all of it came alive. In the US, this was compared to hosting the Olympics or a presidential visit. In Latin America, her concerts were described as a national holiday, while in Asia, security was heightened as if a world leader was arriving. The tour broke every record. Eras Tour became the most profitable tour in the history of music, surpassing the Rolling Stones, U2, and Madonna. The overall revenue exceeded $1 billion, and a huge portion of that went directly to Taylor because she had built a system in which she fully owned her own brand. But this was about more than just money. Taylor became the symbol of a new model of show business, where the artist is no longer a puppet of the corporations. She proved that if you have talent and an army of loyal fans, you can set the rules yourself. This model transformed the industry itself. Young artists now openly say they dream of doing it like Taylor, owning their rights, building their careers independently, working for their audience instead of lining the pockets of others. When Forbes officially declared her a billionaire, it was a historic moment. She became the first woman in history to reach $1 billion solely through music. Not through cosmetics, not through fashion, not through sneakers, but through the very songs she wrote, sang, and carried to the top of the charts. And that makes her unique, because there are plenty of billionaires in the music industry, but almost none who built their fortune on music alone. Taylor is the exception. She proved that art can be not just expression, but also a weapon, a business, and a path to freedom. Today, she is called the queen of the pop culture economy. And those are not just pretty words. She has changed the rules so profoundly that even the industry giants are forced to reckon with her. Now, any song she releases, any move she makes can crash corporate stocks, elevate or destroy a brand's reputation overnight. Taylor Swift has stopped being just a singer. She's become a myth, a symbol, a global brand. But unlike so many other stars, her brand isn't built on perfume or cosmetics. It's built on her voice and her music. And that is what makes her story truly one of a kind. She is the woman who proved that art itself can generate billions. And perhaps that is her greatest victory of all.